Do you want to monitor who needs to be admitted if anyone comes late?
Yep, I'll monitor the chat and the waiting room.
Okay, cool. All right, we'll get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Susie Gomez. I am a 7th and 8th grade English teacher in ABC Unified, which is near the Long Beach area. This is my 10th year of teaching, and I have a 5-month-old who you'll probably hear in the background sometime during the session. So just bear with me if you hear him make some noises. So the focus of our session today is building a virtual classroom using Google Sites. So I will give you a kind of a run through of how to build one, why it's important to have one, or what are the benefits. And then I'll go ahead and show you my site and how I'm using it with my students. And if you have any questions at the end, I'll be more than happy to answer them. All right, so in order to build your virtual classroom, you really just need about 4 different things. Google Sites is where you'll house most of the things that you use. Most of you probably have Google slide decks that you've made to share with your students. And oftentimes we post those in Google Classroom or we share them with students, but there isn't like one central organized location that, at least for myself, that I found was practical for my students. So normally they're like Google Classroom Stream or their Google Classroom assignments. They would have to kind of dig through all that stuff. And I found that organizing them in the site was a lot more user-friendly for my students. I've used Canva a lot with Google Sites to create graphics, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. And then I've used Quizlet to create an interactive word wall in my Google Sites, so I'll show you that as well. All right, so there are a couple of things that you can use Google Sites for. I know that I've used them in the past as digital portfolios where students create their own. You create a digital bookshelf. You can use them for class reflections. You can use them to curate documents for your students. But the focus of this session is basically how to create a virtual classroom as a hub of resources for your students. Now, I'm going to go through these things pretty fast, and I know that we only have a little amount of time, but I do have some tutorials in my YouTube channel where you can kind of see them at your own pace and kind of just see the parts that you need. And normally, most videos aren't longer than 5 minutes, depending on what you need to, what information you need to access. And then the bit.ly for this presentation is at the bottom of the slides. You'll see it as you go. Once you go to the bit.ly, you will be able to click on the link for that, the YouTube channel and any other resources I share as well. Oops, 1 second. All right, so in order to create a Google site, it's actually pretty easy, and I'll show you how easy it is right now. You go to sites.google.com/new, and you do have to go to the new sites, and you'll get a window that looks like this one. So let me just show you what that looks like. Let's see. Okay. So once you go to the new sites, right, you just click on blank. There is like a template there that you could use, but it's very like a basic template. I think it's just easier to start a blank one. So I just start a blank one.
Susie, what was the bit.ly again? We're getting a message here through chat that we need permission to access your bit.ly.
Oh, okay. Let me just make sure that it's shared. Okay. And then here's the bit.ly. So let me put in the chat actually. All right, so once you create a site, it's almost like working on a Google slide deck or a Google document, right? Everything that you put on the Google site will automatically save, but it won't publish to the internet until you decide it's ready for people to view. So just like you would with a document or a slide deck, you do give it a title. So what do you want the name of your website to be? I'll put this as a demo site. And then I give it a title. Now here I can change the images. I can upload an image, or I can choose from a theme that's already created by Google itself. So I can make it any color I want, or change the template to one that I like. I can even use a specific color scheme that I like, and use a hex code if you know how to use those. And I also have a video on that if you need help kind of deciding on like a color scheme for your site as well. So once you're here, you have the option of adding pages. And all you do is just click on the bottom little plus sign, and then you can give that page a title. So like, let's say you want a page for your syllabus, right? Let's say you want a page for Unit 1. Now, the really cool thing about Google Sites is that you can hide things. So you can work ahead of time without having your students have access to the content. So I can hide the page, right? And then students won't be able to see it anymore. So I have my home page and my syllabus, but they can no longer see Unit 1. You can always give them access to that link later and unhide it from navigation for them to see if you'd like. So you can show a navigation and then they'll show up. Now, again, all of these changes are not visible to anyone until you publish. So when you hit publish, then you can give it a web address. So this was demo site. And it'll tell you like what's available, right? So then you hit publish. And just like you would with a document, like you noticed with my presentation, you do have to set it to who you want to be able to view your site. So is it available to anyone with a link? Is it available only to certain people in your domain, and so forth? So that's like the basic gist of how to set it up. And of course, you can get as fancy or as simple as you'd like with your site. So let's go back to the presentation and just go over like some things that you could add to your site, and I'll show you what mine looks like. So some things that you can add to your site that I found are helpful is an important links page. And that really helps you out because when you're having a class, instead of trying to send them the link to every little thing that you're doing for the day, you can just send them this one page or have them bookmark this one page where all the links are for any resource that you use or any platform that you use during your lessons. So that's been really helpful that I just have like this one link that has the links to everything else I use during my lessons, and I can direct them straight to that home page basically. You can create a page for each unit. You can create a page with your class videos. You can even create a page with anchor charts. So basically each page can be like a section of your classroom that you would normally have in regular school. And I found that that's been very helpful for my students. You can have a word wall. You can even have a digital library and a digital bulletin board where you can display student work. Now, the cool thing about Google Sites is that everything integrates in there. Basically, if it has a link, it will work on Google Sites for the most part. So any slideshows, any spreadsheets, anything from your Drive, a PDF, decks from Quizlet, graphics, or if it's an image, you can also embed it in Google Sites, videos, right? So it can be a very interactive place for your students and for yourself and for parents. So in terms of slides, you can add anchor charts or weekly slides as well. I found a couple of websites where you can find templates, and I put those on the presentation as well, like Slides Mania or Slidesco or Slides Carnival. Quizlet is a pretty cool tool to use for digital flashcards and practice quizzes. And then there's also like a match game that will make your word wall interactive, and I'll go ahead and show you that in a bit too. I've also used Canva to create graphics for my site, and I put the link for the free educator account because that gives you the ability to get premium access to all their images and their stock images for you to use and then download for your site as well, and for any other graphics that you want to make. And then obviously for YouTube, I've used it to upload video tutorials to my site, to upload links to audiobooks for novels that we read or read alouds that we use in our class as well. All right, so some of the just basic benefits of the site would be to organize the location of your resources and make them available when needed, not just kind of keep them in drafts. So one of the things that I kind of had a hard time with Google Classroom is that you have to either post, you can't save things in draft for each class, like you have to post them either all or one by one. Or you can't schedule it, but with this, I can just hide it and then just make it available when I need to, and the kids already have a link to the main site when they need it. It's a central hub without drowning students with emails. So in Google Classroom, if the kids don't take off the email notification, they get tons of emails from other teachers when something is posted. And with this, you don't have to worry about that. You can let them know yourself during class, or just give them the link in Google Classroom if you need it. You also don't overflow your feed or your stream, and it just keeps your Google Classroom a lot cleaner. You can reuse and revise your site as needed for the following year. You can pin the site in Google Classroom as a material under classwork for easy access. You can share it with parents if you'd like to, and you can refer to one location versus multiple sites. All right, so let me go ahead and walk you through my site, and then I can show you how I did a couple of the things on there, and I'll walk you through some tools that I use through Canva, and then I'll open it up to questions in case there's some specific questions that you have for your class. So let me show you what I've done with my site and how I'm using it. So I do teach 7th and 8th grade, which is why, and some of the things overlap. So some of the things that my students use are the same, and some of the things are different because they're in different grade levels. So I've created my homepage where they can enter a different part of the site depending on their grade level. So I have a section for 7th and a section for 8th. But in the homepage, I mean, they all have like a Meet the Teacher section, right? So they all have the same teacher, so that stays the same. So in my homepage, I've tried to include things that is relevant to both my 7th and my 8th graders. And then the individual ones for each grade level is just for that grade level. So there is a 7th grade page and an 8th grade page, and then a Meet the Teacher page. This is probably the most important one, is the important links page, because they all use very similar platforms. I put a link to like my YouTube channel with videos and the handbook for our class. I also made it very clear like what the purpose of our site is versus our Google Classroom, so that they're not confused about where do I turn in assignments. So I've explicitly told my students, this is where you find resources, and Google Classroom is where you turn in your assignments. I've also posted their schedule and then just basic expectations for our class. So the important links page, and this is probably the one that I use almost every single day, is where I put links to all their platforms. And the most important thing is how to log into all these platforms. So that's right on the same page. Because as you know, if a platform does not have sign in with Google, then it's like a nightmare having them remember how to log on to their sites. So I've added those here for them to always reference as well. And these graphics I created with Canva. And I'll show you in a second how easy it is to create things with Canva as well. I've also included like an early finisher's choice board there for them to use if they're done, and this is all used. I created this in Google Slides, so everything's embedded to your slides. One other thing that I've added for each class is a weekly assignment chart. So this is where they can come and see what their assignments were for the week. And this was also created with slides. So a lot of the things that I've created are with slides, but just better organized where they can find them. And everything's linked to what they did for that week. And then for their word wall, this is where I included Quizlet. So if you create a set in Quizlet, you can embed it into your site. Now, keep in mind that if you have a .org account through your school domain, it won't let you embed with Quizlet. So you will have to share your site with a personal email and then embed it that way. So if you've used Quizlet before,
something that provides a sense of security or safety,
you know that you can make flashcards basically for the kids. And then they also have a match game that you can embed in here, and then it would match it and it would time them. So it just makes for vocabulary a little bit more engaging there for them to study on their own. And you can just import the ones that you'd like. So I'll go ahead and show you that as well. And then finally, I do have bulletin board where I plan to include student work. And these graphics I also made with Canva, which I'll show you again in a second. And like I told you, I embedded YouTube links to audiobooks. So whenever there's a novel that we're reading in class, they can click on the book cover and they'll take them to the audiobook for that link, for that book. And then the anchor charts, basically anything that I would hang in the walls in my classroom would be under the anchor chart section. And I can add more anchor charts as we go. And the same thing, right? So instead of sending them like all these links to all these anchor charts, I can just send them this main link and then they can go ahead and look at those anchor charts there. So let me just go over Canvas, right? So if you click on the link on the presentation for the educator account, it usually takes them like 24 hours to no more than 1 to 2 days to get you your educator account. And once you have that, then you can basically do anything that's premium with Canva. So in the site, when you insert, let's say like images, you have these little placeholders. And if you create something in Canva, usually if you make something with the same dimensions as an Instagram post, it will fit perfectly in there. So I'll show you, for example, right? If I go to my templates in Canva, and again, you can create a free account, or if you sign up for an educator account, you still have access to almost everything. So if I click on like Instagram post and I can edit any of the templates they already have, as you can see, I had like that coming soon graphic or like the password graphic that I have, I created in this size. So you have a bunch of like different designs that you can create. And it's pretty easy. So once you make them, so I have like all these different ones I've made. So this is like the password, the coming soon one. So you can create a template based on your whatever you want to design. And then once it's done, you can download it from Canva as a PNG, gives you like no white background in the back. Or you can also download it as a picture. Either one will work for Google Sites. So then I'm gonna download that. And then all I have to do is go back to my site. And then I can add it from my computer because I already downloaded it. Right, and I can drag it. And then I can resize it however I'd like. So then that just kind of gives you like more like clean graphics that you really don't have to spend too much time creating because you can use the templates from Canva. And there's a bunch of other templates on Canva that you can use, but this is the one that fits like perfectly in that square for the site. In terms of how you embed a Quizlet deck, if you go to Quizlet, if you already have decks created, it's actually super easy. Because Quizlet already creates the embed code for you. So let's say right now my students are reading Cujo. And so if you're on Quizlet and you already created a set of flashcards, and I just use the free version of Quizlet, I don't use the premium one. So you can do all this with like the free version. So that's what's nice about it. You don't have to like have any like extra accounts. and there's like an embed button here. So if you just click below your deck and the 3 little dots and you click embed, see, you can copy the HTML for either the flashcards, the match game, or any other item that Quizlet creates off of your vocabulary words. So I normally do the match or the flashcards, and I copy the HTML. And once I go back to my site, I can embed by using the embed code. So I can embed code, and then I just paste it. And it'll show you like a small preview sometimes, or I'll just embed it for you. And then it'll kind of look like the one I had. I don't think it goes on here. Let me see. Or it's not going to work right now. Let's see. That's what I want to embed. Sometimes it takes a while to load. Sometimes I think it's just my computer. So let's give that a second and then I'll load. You can also embed by like URL. That one sometimes works for our slides. So let me show you with the slides first, and then we'll come back to the Quizlet stuff. So if I want to embed my syllabus or anything else from my slides, everything comes from your drive. So as long as it's in your drive, it will embed in the slides, in the site basically. So one of the things, let me see. Like this is one of the Edu protocols I have on this drive. So I can select that and double click it, and then it will embed it on your site as well. So let me take this one out. So normally I try to stretch it out so that so the kids can have a good view. They can always click it and actually go to the slideshow later. Sorry, my computer's running a little slow. And you have a couple of options here on how you want it to appear on your site. So you can have it auto start if there's multiple slides, or loop back, or you can delay the time, or you can actually have it start on a different slide if you'd like, if you have multiple slides on your deck. So those are just a couple of ways that you can embed the slides and then graphics from Canva. Let me see, I think I already went over this. Yeah, okay, so let me show you in terms of, let's see if the Quizlet stuff started working. So again, remember that this won't save for others to see unless you hit publish. So for example, if I go to my site right now, none of the changes I've made appear. So the students wouldn't be able to see them until I hit publish. So that's when you give them access to it. So if I press publish now, right, I'll show you what was in your draft and what is currently published, and then you hit publish. And so now if I refresh this page, which is like the actual site, not the edit version, I should be able to see what I had on, what I published on my site. So, oh, there it goes. And I closed it, of course. Okay, so the published site. Okay, and now I can see what I added to my site. So again, it won't show it to your students until you hit publish. So it's kind of like in a draft mode until you make those changes. And let's try to embed that Quizlet stuff again. Let's try the URL. Sometimes that works. I promise it works. Sometimes I guess technology, of course, is not always the best. So let's see. Let's try again. Let's try the flashcards. Oops. Let's try the edit button. I know that one of the questions that I've been asked before is how do you embed a PDF? The PDF does have to be in your drive. It doesn't just drag and drop like an image. So you would have to have that in your drive. So I know that's something that's been asked before, and I have to kind of play with it before I figured that part out. I'm trying to do page. Okay, I think it's gonna take a while to load, so you're gonna have to be patient with that feature, but it does work. As you can see, it was working in the other one. Okay, so a couple other things that you can also do with Canva is I created like, I added a GIF to my background that looks like my classroom, so that through Canva you can also download like animated GIFs to your classroom. So I'll show you what that kind of looked like, as you saw on the website that I posted. So I do have a separate section for 7th and 8th. And so this I created with Canva and onscreen.com. So I basically downloaded the GIF and added it to a background in Canva, and then I downloaded it as another GIF. So it's like a GIF within a GIF, basically. And then for each grade level, I have like the syllabus and then their weekly assignments, and then a section for each one of their units. They have their own word wall and their own bulletin board. And then I've also included I post them in groups, and I use Google Sheets to do that, and that also embeds into the site. So like I said, if it's in your drive, it will embed into the site the easiest, and then exterior things will take a little longer to load because it's like an exterior site. So that'll work too. For the e-library, I just kind of made that on a slideshow, so that works just fine. In terms of like the buttons, the reason I have the buttons versus like the bar at the top is to not overwhelm the students with too many things at the top. So some things I've hidden, and let me show you how I did that. So if I go to the pages side of my site, you can see that I've hidden a lot of different pages so that they're not all at the top bar. And so if you just make like a button or a square in Canva and download as an image, then you can link it. So all of these are images that I've linked. So if you make an image and then you drop it into your site, you can hyperlink it to a link, and that way you don't have all the links up at the top. And you can kind of condense it so that it's not too overwhelming for students. So like The syllabus is not here at the top. It's just a button within that grade level. So I've opted to kind of hide some things that I feel maybe they won't visit as often, but they still need access to. So they're still available in the site. They're just not like one of the main buttons at the top because they're not going to be using that all the time. So I've done that. And then you can embed pages within a page. So for example, if I go back to my demo, right? And let's say that there's a story that you want a page for, then I can drag it inside Unit 1, and now it's a page inside a page. So if I go to the top, now I have Unit 1 inside that page. I can also rearrange things by just grabbing and dragging. So I can have my syllabus last or my syllabus first. So it's a super like intuitive and easy to use in terms of like rearranging things. And again, like I told you, you can hide things if you no longer need them. They also have like just layouts and buttons that you can use there. So if you don't want to get super fancy and you just want to use like the default button from the site, then you can press button and you would name the button. So like, let's say this is for my syllabus, if I don't want it up at the top. And then I can just insert the link, or I can link it to something already in my site. And then it creates a button there that I can use. And I can always edit that if I like. So you can add as many buttons as you want as well. So that's like the easier part of doing it.
Susie, we do have a question in the chat.
Okay.
Can co-teachers have access to your site to add info?
Oh, that's a great question. Yes. So if you go to the top and there's like a share button, right? There's like the little person with the plus sign. You can share it with a co-teacher. So you can add people or a group. So let's say I added it with myself. You can also, like I said, share it with myself in case I want to have access from multiple accounts. I know in my district, they give us 2 Google accounts. They give us a .us one and a .org one. And sometimes when I'm logged in with one and not the other, I can't edit it. So I shared it with myself so that I can have access on both sites. But I've also, you can also share it with a colleague as an editor or as a published viewer. That means they can only see it. So editor would be if you want them to make changes. One of the things that you can't do is share a template. So like, you know, when you make a slideshow and you want to share a template with someone, they can't just make a copy unless you add them as an editor. So once you have them as an editor, if you want them to make a copy of your site, then they can go to the little gear. No, sorry, they go to these 3 little dots. And then they can duplicate the site, and then you can remove them as an editor if you just want them to have a copy of yours. So for example, in our department, we created one where we can work on it together. And then they duplicated to kind of adjust it to their own classes. And then once they've duplicated and we are no longer editing that main site, then I can remove them as an editor if I don't want them to make any more changes. But you can't just share a template without making them an editor first, if that makes sense. Yeah. But if you're working on something with in your department, like it's the same site altogether, then you can just keep them as an editor. Yeah. Just make sure you don't add students as editors. So the link you want to give your students is the publish link. So if you go to view published site, right, that's the link you want to give your students. Don't add them as editors because you don't want them to edit your stuff. Yeah, great question. All right, so let's go back here. All right, so that's the same site that you would also share with parents. Now, if you don't want your parents to see certain things on there, then I wouldn't suggest that you share that site. I mean, you can always duplicate the site and just let them see whatever you'd like them to see. But normally, most teachers are fine with them sharing everything. So I normally share the link through Remind or through our Aries communication, and then share the link with parents that way. And I also post the link in Google Classroom so that the kids have access to show it to them there as well. All right, so if there are any more like technical questions, I'll go ahead and take your questions at this time. And I'll be more than happy to help out anyone that wants to get started setting it up. Can co-teachers assistant? Yeah.
Any questions for Susie here on Google Sites?
Susie, question, like when you put the EDGE protocol up on the page, is that something students are accessing to write on or just as a sample? Can they work on it? I mean, how does that work?
Okay, so that was just a sample to show you I can upload the slides, but they can make a copy of it if you'd like. Any assignments I do post in Google Classroom so that I make a forced copy for each student. So normally the slides that I upload to my website are things that I want them just to look at. So I'll upload like slides that we did in class or their weekly homework for the week, things like that.
Okay, thanks. I just didn't know if that was how they were accessing. Yeah. How do they access?
Yeah. So I'll keep all the assignments in Google, like the things that they submit will be in Google Classroom, but anything I would just want them to view will be on the site so that they don't get everything mixed up. All right, so if you have any other questions for me, I am available through Twitter or Instagram. I'm probably the most active on Instagram most of the time, but I do check Twitter every once in a while. I'll be more than happy to also answer your questions via email. I know that you really don't have questions, so you start playing with the site and you can kind of get stuck when maybe something doesn't work the way you want it to, or something that you want to do that you want to know how to do it. So I'm more than happy to answer questions as well via email. And then, like I said, I do have some video tutorials in my YouTube channel that gives you different ideas of things you can do with your site. And then you can kind of choose whichever ones you're more interested in viewing.
I have a quick question. I know I was fiddling with Google Sites. It wasn't that long ago, maybe like a year or two ago, but it looks a little bit different. I think they might have modified it a little bit. Have you noticed that too? And is it easier or is it more user friendly? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it definitely is a lot more user friendly, like more drag and drop than before. And you just can play more with adjusting some of the colors. The fonts, you really can't. So there is like some features like the fonts you really can't edit. So that's why like my workaround is like if you make something on Canva with whatever font you want, you can just upload it as an image to kind of change the look of your site. You can always just use the stock stuff that they have or personalize it to what you'd like.
Nice.
Is there a way to incorporate Google Translate into your site to allow parents to choose their language? That's a good question. I think that if you just use the translate feature on Google Chrome, it might be able to translate some of the things, but not everything, because then your slideshows wouldn't be translated. So I think if you type directly onto the site itself and you use the extension for Google Translate on Chrome, you could probably change some of it, but not all of it if you're embedding slides and stuff like that. It's a good question.
Great question.
If I accidentally created my Google site under my personal email, is there a way to change it over to my work email? You can share it with your work email, and that way you have access to both. Yeah, that's what
you might need to ask your IT to if your district doesn't let
Mm-hmm.
to call like Gmails to add them. You might need to ask them, but yeah, that's a great idea just to
Yeah.
share it.
Yeah, because
Nice.
I've created it in my school email and shared it with my personal one, but not
Right.
the other way around.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, that happens. You always create stuff with your
Yeah,
regular one
it
because
happens all.
yeah. My husband was just like, how did they give you 2 Gmails at your school? I was like, I don't know. It's like, at least I get double the storage.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'll be more than happy to answer them. What are your thoughts with linking this into your teacher website that is on a district page? Linking this into your teacher website. Oh, yeah, my school has a website, but it's not super active, I guess. They do have pages for teachers, and they haven't really asked us actually to update the information on the website. But yeah, I would definitely add it to like my school website page. That would probably be a good place for parents to find information. I know that my school's they created a Google site for like our early start registration and added videos of all the teachers like intro videos. Like they house them all in a Google site. And they're also creating a Google site for back to school night because we're not doing it live. We're pre-recording the videos, and they're creating a Google site with everyone's not Google. They're creating a Google site with everyone's back to school night video and sharing that with parents. So I would assume they're adding that to our school website. So yeah, definitely I would add it to my school website as well. The more places parents can access it is probably the better. And my back to school night video was walking parents through my site, showing them where everything is so that whenever a kid has a question, you can tell them like, have you looked at Ms. Gomez's site? Like everything's there. And then they know that they have a tool available to look for all the resources for our class.
And what's kind of like your workflow when it comes to using Google Sites and Google Classroom so you don't like duplicate your efforts? I know you talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but
yeah, so like on our Google Classroom, I can show you. I only have my assignments there, so any other resource will be on my site, and they have the link to the site in their Google Classroom.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So you strictly have assignments in your Google Classroom, and everything else is kind of like the same. So you just put in your Google Sites.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm like trying to get my things to show up.
Yeah, I like how technology always likes to do that whenever you're presenting.
Yeah. So I try to keep my Google Classroom as clean as possible, so that it's easy for them to find things, and then. So like on the stream, I tried just to post things that are like super important announcements. So like our support block stays there. We have like a support block, like a Q&A at the end of each day. And so that's a permanent link there in the Google Classroom because the Meet link is right above it. And then their weekly assignments are there in case they need them.
Nice.
And then under classwork, that's where I'll have the important links is like an attendance form I have for them. There's a link to our site, and within there is also the link straight to like the important links page I showed you guys. The assignments for the week, and then the support block Meet. And then after that, I divide it by month, and these are just their assignments. There's like no materials kind of mixed in there. So it's easy for me to say like go to assignment 1, 2, or 3, or 4, and then any resources come straight from the site.
Nice. Okay, I see.
Yeah, so it just kind of lets you free up space from your Google Classroom. That way they're not digging through stuff. I know that some teachers do it by week. And sometimes I'll put like, say this is like week 2, day 1 of their classwork. Or sometimes I'll just put the assignment for that day and then number it. Yeah, we just started not too long ago. I know some teachers have been in session a lot longer now.
Oh. Zoom.
All right, any other questions? Sorry, I kind of finished a little early.
That's good. I actually got to go to my next one. I'm hosting.
Yeah.
So,
I figured everyone's tired after lunch. It's like the after lunch lag.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, I think Myra will be here in a short minute. And,
Yeah, good coma.
Good coma, yeah. After lunch.
So can I end the recording now, or?
Yeah, you can go ahead and end the recording, and I think I think Myra, she just unmuted. So Myra, I'm gonna be heading on to my next one if that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm here.
Yeah?
I've been